Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel and welcome back to another live tactical preview. This weekend, Manchester United are finally back in action at Old Trafford, but it's another rather tricky game, Crystal Palace. We seem to say that every week. A tricky game coming up, but another very important game for Manchester United. Last week, we saw Manchester United finally climbing into the top four. The form in terms of results looks fantastic. 5 wins out of 6 with 1 draw in there as well. Things are looking good for Manchester United. But if you look at the points tally on this chart, you can see that it is by no means done yet. There is a lot to play for this season. There are a lot of points available to get on the board. And teams around us are close. Chelsea are only 3 points behind us, as are Liverpool. Aston Villa are 3 points ahead of us. So we need to make sure that we keep winning matches. And I think Crystal Palace represents another potential banana peel game. It's an easy one to slip up and not get the result that you want. However, if again we take a look at the fixtures that are around the league this weekend for other teams, it's a fantastic opportunity for United. Chelsea go away from home against Arsenal. It's not an easy one. And also Villa away from home against Wolves, which may not sound like that much of a tricky fixture, but it's a rivalry, isn't it? It's a derby, and you never know what might happen in a derby. So for United, it is another great opportunity to try and get 3 points on the board against this Crystal Palace side. Now, I don't know exactly how Crystal Palace will line up. I would anticipate that it will be something like this. But what we're more interested in today is looking at the United starting 11. Looking at how United should approach the game. Who should be in goal, who should be in the back four, the midfield, the forwards. That is going to be up to you guys in the chat. So that is the plan for today. But before we do any of that, I want to hear from you guys in the chat. How are you? How are you feeling about United? How are you feeling about this game? Because Crystal Palace feels like a bit of a tricky one for us. We've had some bad results against them over the last couple of years. We've already beat them once this season away from home with a couple of really nice free kicks. So how are we feeling about this one? It does feel like one of those days where if we were to win this one, we could actually find ourselves in a lovely, lovely position. Now, of course, even after this one, there's still 10 games to go. There's a lot of football to be played. But if Chelsea were to lose to Arsenal and United were to win this game, having that 6-point gap could be monumental. And again, we've got to remember, these teams around us are playing in Europe. They've got lots of games. They're going to be tired as we head towards the end of the season. All 9 teams from England that are currently playing in European competition went through this week. So there's so many of these teams around us playing so many games. It really is advantage Manchester United. So this is one of those ones where, for me, we've said it before, we've got to win. We've got to win. Palace themselves, if you look at a little bit lower down the league, are not doing amazingly right now. In the last 3, they've picked it up a little bit with 2 good wins. But you can see their form is a little bit mixed, and they currently sit in 13th, which isn't amazing. Also, they played in Europe last night, so maybe they're going to be a little bit tired, and United can be fresher. Anyway, let's have a look at the chat. It worries me because they're so much better without the ball, but they're really not great either way at the moment. Yeah, this is one of those games where I think we will see United with a lot of possession. I think United will have a lot of the ball in this game. I don't think Palace will park the bus immediately. I think they will try and jump. I think they will try and apply pressure high up the pitch. And I'm going to do a video on that as well. But I do think large parts of this game will involve Palace being quite deep, quite compact. And it might be one of those games where United have got to break down a team. And we've seen this particular shape before, right? The 3-4-3, it's something that we've looked at. Now, of course, not all 3-4-3s are the same. But there are certain similarities with this shape to what we saw under Ruben Amorim as well. And that therefore means that we know some of the weaknesses of the shape. But we also know, Amorim in some big games, you could go into a back 5, you could get lots of players behind the ball. And it can be really tricky to break down. So I don't think this is an easy one for United. I think it's one of those where if we can score in the first half, if we can get into a good position, then I could see us winning 3-0. But it's also another one which could still really be cagey around the 70th minute. It could really go either way, this one. Surely we can get a decent result at Old Trafford and then 3 points are on the way. It'd be very nice. It'd be very nice. Feeling very, very good. Palace at home, given recent form, we are favourites. But Palace do have something against us. Must-win game, need to be on the front foot, especially with Palace playing last night. Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I think I would always say this, but especially when the opposition have just played and are fatigued, we've got to fly out the traps. We've got to come out of this game so quick. Get at Palace immediately. Get the crowd on side at home especially. And just get after Palace early on as possible. And then you think towards the latter stages of the game, when Palace start to fatigue, that's when our subs could be really useful. The players that we can use from the bench, you would imagine our bench will look stronger than that of Palace. So that's when we can really get after them and maybe put the game to bed. Alex, good morning, mate. Lovely to see you. 343 gives me PTSD. Yeah, same. Same, bro. I'm confident. I think Thursday football for Palace is bad for them. They don't have the squad depth to cope with 2 games a week. Yeah, I mean, they didn't really strengthen last summer, did they? Not enough. They didn't sort of kick on. Last year, they were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But they never really made that next step with their recruitment. They didn't kick on. I think that's why they've been so frustrated. I think that's why Glasner has been so frustrated. And it looks like he's going to be leaving at the end of the season. Guehi's gone. It's a bit of an unsettled time for Palace. After one of their best seasons ever, it's quickly come down. And it is a great time to play them. I really do think it is. Do you reckon Šeško could start given his recent form? I really do. Yes. I think he would be in my 11. We'll discuss that when we get there, but I think he would be in mine. Hope you're well. Not bad at all. Thank you very much. Not bad at all. I'm looking forward to the idea of next season with more football. I'll say that much, but I'm pretty good. Mbumo is better on the right wing, and Šeško has been banging in goals the last few games. I think it's obvious for Šeško to start. And we have to beat Palace to solidify our position in the top 4. It would be big, wouldn't it? It would. As I said, if Chelsea were to lose, we'd be 6 points clear of Chelsea. That feels... You heard nothing. That feels massive. We could go 6 points clear of those guys. Look at Alex, by the way, with the 27-month membership, saying he hopes Šeško starts and to keep up the great work. Alex, thank you very much, as always. I like to occasionally point it out with Alex. Alex was here literally on the very first stream that we ever did. Now, I don't know how many subscribers we had at the time. It weren't very many. It was the first live stream. There was probably like 12 people watching or something like that, the live. But Alex was here literally from the start. So make sure to say a big thank you to him because he is a legend. So get some love hearts in there. Right, shall we go through the 11? Let's do the obvious bits. And then we'll sort of fill in some holes. Maybe that's the best way to do this. Normally, we would go goalkeeper, back four, midfield, forwards. I think today what I'm going to do is put in the players that I think are obvious. They're absolutely going to play. And then we'll try and fill in the holes around that. Sound like a good idea. So, in terms of, like, obvious... Talk to me about Lomans. Talk to me about Lomans. Is this the first time we've spoken since the Everton game? Can't remember what day it was. But talk to me about Lomans. I mean, he's just fantastic, isn't he? He's just so good. Now, I almost don't want to hype him up too much because I've enjoyed that his name hasn't been grabbing the headlines. But he's just such a solid goalkeeper. I mean, that Everton game, the set pieces were relentless in the last 15 minutes. And I think he just stood so strong. And I think it's so big for his mentality in his first season at the club. If you guys remember back to David De Gea, sort of his very first season, he struggled with set pieces. He struggled physically. And that was something that teams just really went in on for a long time because they knew he was weak. Onana was another one where it was quite clear that he was weak on set pieces. So teams would just target it. With Lomans, what he's done is he's come in and made this massive statement in the first season that balls into the box don't faze him. Physicality is not a problem. If he makes a mistake, he's going to bounce back. Just a solid goalkeeper. In his first season in English football, I've been really, really impressed. I thought he looked good before we signed him, but I was a little bit unsure, to tell the truth. But I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I think he's a brilliant goalkeeper. And he should absolutely be in the 11 this week. He's sort of like first name on the team sheet, really, isn't he? Apart from Bruno Fernandes, he'll definitely be in there. Kobbie Mainoo will definitely be in there now, which is refreshing. How nice is that? That he's just one of the first names on the team sheet now, whereas once upon a time, there was big discussions about how we could get him into the team or why we must. It's lovely. It's lovely to see. But yeah, I think these three are pretty much guaranteed starters for the game. Outside of that, who are the guarantees? Who would you guys have if you can... If I allow you to pick one more player, so you've got 5 that are definitely starting this game, who would your 5th one be? It's these 4, I feel. Maguire? I mean, he's been fantastic under Carrick, so it makes sense maybe for Maguire to be in there. unless there's a change of approach. The fullbacks feel like we can have a little bit of a debate, although I know who my preference is, but we can have a debate there. The forwards, we don't quite know which one of them's going to start because they're all in pretty good form at the moment, which again is a nice problem to have. Is it Maguire or Shaw, perhaps? Lomans has been transformational for the whole team, radiating confidence. It's just what a goalkeeper should be, isn't it? I think the spine of your team is so important in football. You've got to get that middle of the pitch right, and that includes your goalkeeper. He's a leader, isn't he? He's a leader. Steve, good morning to you, my friend. I didn't see your first message, so I thought literally your first message of the day was just Dallo, and I thought that was the most perfect thing that I've ever seen. His first message, in fact, was Onana struggles a lot with the goalkeeping aspect of the game, which is understandable. Have you ever tried to play goalkeeper on pro clubs? It's not easy. It's not easy. Shaw has started every game this season. Yeah, I think the only world in which I could see a change is, obviously we haven't got Dorgu, so he can't play left back, is if Mazraoui or Dallo was to move to left back for a game. But I just don't see it happening at the moment. Luke Shaw at the moment feels he's in the team. So maybe they are our 5 certainties, which I don't mind. I don't mind that at all. Shall we then try and finish off this back 4? Who can be playing in that position? Now, I think Lisandro Martinez is still going to be out, I think. Based on what I've seen, he's back in training, but I just don't think he's the sort of player that we would rush back because he's had injury problems. I don't think we sort of launch him back into the starting 11. So I don't think we'll see Lisandro Martinez from the start in this game. So I would say the options are Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire, what a guy. Love Harry Maguire. Aiden Heaven. Lenny Yoro, who I thought did okay in the last game. I still want a little bit more from him on the ball. I think he can do more in that aspect. But I think defensively, Yoro actually played quite well the other day. And I think he was good against West Ham the week before with his substitute appearance. I got it written down somewhere. I think he's played 113 minutes under Carrick, which isn't a lot. But I think he's impressed with pretty much every minute he's had on the pitch. I'd just like to see a little bit more on the ball. But I think dealing with Barry the other day, I thought he was really, really good. And Barry's not an easy striker to play against. He may not have the most goals and assists this season, but physically he's a real handful. And I thought our centre-backs made him look like nothing, really. Everton had 0.01 XG from open play. We obviously did something right. There is, though, the argument for, okay, we think we're going to have the ball. I didn't mean to press that. We think we're going to have the ball. Do we need an Aiden Heaven to bring a bit more in possession to try and break them down? I also thought it was interesting that we swapped the centre-backs in the way that we did. Because we were forced to make one change at the back by bringing Yoro in for Lisandro Martinez. But in a way, we almost made 2 changes because we then flipped the centre-backs as well. I thought that was interesting. Especially because I view Yoro as a left-sided centre-back long-term. I think that's his best position. So I thought it was interesting that we did that. I think Maguire will play. And I think he deserves to play. His experience, his leadership, and of course everything that he brings on the pitch is crucial to what United are doing at the moment. I'm happy to have the conversation between these two, though. I'm happy to have the conversation here. I like the idea of Aiden Heaven's left foot, right? His ball-playing ability. Sort of, if we're looking like for Lisandro Martinez, Heaven's the closest we've got. He's not the same level, but he's the closest we've got in terms of his ability on the ball and trying to play through a team, trying to progress the ball, maybe occasionally going over the opposition. However, having said that, I do wonder if Yoro's style suits Maguire a little bit more, with Yoro almost being that sort of sweeping centre-back a little bit more. Is there a world where we see the pair of them? Now, we need to see this someday. I need to see a centre-back pairing of Heaven and Yoro at some point. Maybe it's not this season, but at some point, given a 5-6 game spell where they start at centre-back together, because I think these two could be a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun. There is also the argument for taking Maguire out simply to protect him. If there is a time to do it, it's probably at home in a game you expect to dominate. But I just think based on what Carrick's done so far, I would be very surprised if Maguire doesn't play. Carrick has sort of been hesitant to make changes unless forced. So I think Maguire would be in the team. I think. Should we do a quick poll? Heaven versus Yoro. And of course, as always, this isn't who is better or who's got more potential or who do you like more. It's who would you go for in this game, or you can vote what you think Carrick will go for. I nearly said Amarim then. I think it's because I saw the word Grimsby in the chat. We saw it against Bournemouth and unfortunately didn't go too well. Maybe after they become a bit more experienced. Yeah, very young players, aren't they? Very young players, but they can be sort of the centre-back future at this club. If you look at the ones we've got good depth, but a few of them feel like they won't be here that many more years, whereas these two hopefully can be here for a long time. That would be nice. I would love for Yoro and Heaven to be our future centre-back partnership. I think they potentially really complement each other as well. Heaven's ball playing ability, Yoro being a little bit safer, Heaven maybe a bit stronger in the air, but Yoro more of that covering defender whilst Heaven plays aggressive. I think they could sort of match each other quite nicely once they just naturally pick up more experience, play more football, get better, develop. I think there's a lot of potential in what they could be in the future, which is nice. It's nice. Heaven Yoro only if Maguire is injured. Yeah, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Sort of seems to be the thinking there. You just play Harry Maguire, don't you? Heaven and Maguire gives us a left foot and a right foot, but Yoro maybe just a nod of Heaven still. Nod ahead of Heaven still. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's just slightly higher in the pecking order, Lenny Yoro. And I think I agree with that. I do value Lenny Yoro slightly higher as a footballer currently. But Heaven's obviously a good player as well. The poll is very much going for Lenny Yoro, though. So we will whack him in this team. And we'll take Heaven out, and we'll do that. Right back. Dalot versus Mazraoui is the battle every single week. And I'll be honest, with Dalot's form, with Dalot's performances, I don't really see how Mazraoui gets into the side. To be honest, I don't know how you knock Dalot out of the team. And until he has a blip, I think Dalot's been really good under Carrick. Back in the fullback position, he just looks more natural, doesn't he? I think, he's always got a weird moment, hasn't he? He was fantastic the other night, and then there was a long ball which he tried to bring under control, which just should have been headed away all day long, and it nearly messed things up. He is one of those players. But I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again. I think if Dalot played for Crystal Palace and we watched him perform against us this weekend, I think we'd be sending 50 million their way in the summer. I think Dalot's a really good, underappreciated footballer. I think he'll start this one. Wouldn't Crystal Palace hurt us if we used only those two kids at centre-back? Yeah, I think Strand Larsen's quite a clever player as well, so that's why I would go for the Harry Maguire experience. Larsen's quite a physical player as well. If you actually look at his form, he only got 1 goal all season for Wolves, but he's already got 2 for Crystal Palace, which is quite impressive. By the way, this isn't sponsored, but how cool is this new feature that you can click on a player and see their stats for the season? This is the James Lawrence Olcott tactics board. I'll leave it linked in the description. Again, this isn't sponsored. It's just cool. Just really cool feature. Also, I want to see a Cobby goal soon. Put that out there. It's always Dalot in his preferred position since Ten Hag. When he wants player. Yeah, I think he's just a good footballer, and he would be in my team. And again, Mazraoui is a lovely bench option. We saw it the other day when we wanted to shut up shop a little bit, protect ourselves. Dalot went to the right wing, and Mazraoui came in at fullback, and that's absolutely fine to do that. But yeah, keep this back four. I think they played really well the other day, and again, I think defence is the one position where if you can keep it the same, keep it the same. And they played well against Everton, so why change it? We then see that 20 minutes into the stream, we already have 8 players sorted. And I think that's just what happens when Manchester United are playing well. Like, we're 20 minutes in, we know most of our team. I am just knocking everything over today. We pretty much know our whole team, and we're 20 minutes in, which is nice. I think that's the simplicity of it at the moment. Also, because we're not playing particularly regularly, we don't need to rest people so much. We can look after ourselves. But I do think the forward line brings an interesting conversation. And then after that, we're going to have a look at shape and how Crystal Palace might approach the game, how you might expect us to play out from the back and things like that. Something which I think will be up Steve's street. So, yeah. Give me your sort of instinctive, immediate thoughts on the front line. What's going on there for you guys? In the meantime, I don't know if you guys understand who is in the chat right now. I don't know if you guys understand who's in the chat. It's our man Ali. with a super chat, a $20 super chat, which is incredibly generous. Ali, thank you so much. But also, again, if you don't know, get to know this man. This man, once upon a time, almost kept the channel running, kept me paying my rent with his generosity in streams. He was absolutely incredible. And he is back, saying, good morning, my friends. Hope you are all doing great. I've missed you all. Finally was able to catch you live. Congrats on the growth, AJ. Best channel ever. This is another man who was here from early, from very early in the journey, from the live streams. He's an absolute legend, so make sure to spam, and I mean spam, some love hearts in the chat, because he's a real legend. And how are you, mate? Have you been enjoying the Manchester United form? It's just simple, isn't it? 5 wins from 6 and a draw. We've also got Kieran in the chat with a gifted membership as well, and Kieran is another man who has been on these streams for ages. Absolutely ages. Kieran, thank you very much for the gifted membership. And yeah, again, guys, love hearts in the chat for the super chat, for the gifted membership. Thank you both very, very much. Very kind of you. I really do appreciate that. Really kind. What a community we have. What a community. Thank you guys very much. Right. Forwards. We want to hurt Crystal Palace. We want to attack them. How do we do it? Let's have a look. Steve is going for Ahmad to have a bit of a rest, which I don't think would hurt. Cunha on the left and Mbumo right, Sesko up top from the start. Is this stream a little bit too easy? Because I agree. I think it's the exact 11 that I've got in my thumbnail. I think it's the exact same. Ahmad off the bench might actually help him get back to his form, like Sesko. Absolutely. I think there's a few things you've got to manage and juggle here. Sitting there as Michael Carrick, there's a few things to think about. One thing is the best team physically possible to win this football match. That's something to consider. But also, you do have to remember that you are managing humans. You're managing people with emotions and feelings and desires in the football world. Someone like Benjamin Sesko he's been fantastic, hasn't he? Fantastic from the bench. I think he's got the most non-penalty goals in the Premier League in 2026. At some point, as fantastic as he's been, and there is an argument that he's sort of producing this form because he's coming on against tired legs. And that is something that we've got to consider. Maybe he's been performing because we've taken the pressure off of him by not starting him. But also at some point, you've got to reward the lad. You've got to go, you've been fantastic, you deserve a start. So there's a couple of things to consider here. You've also got to consider players off form and how you need to manage those guys. Ahmad, isn't really producing at the moment. I've got him as a custom player because I changed his name. Ahmad isn't really producing at the moment. The goals and assists have been quite dry all season, to be honest. But at least what he normally brings is sort of that lively personality. He's plays with a lot of spark. He can just do something out of nothing. He's always on the go. You've got to give him credit for that. But normally what he really brings is that 1-versus-1 dribbling. And I just don't think recently he's been providing that. And then you've got to question, if he's not doing that, does he warrant a place in the starting 11? No, this isn't me trying to drag Ahmad down. I think he's a great footballer. He's someone that I love at Manchester United. He's one of my favourite players to watch. But when he's not playing particularly well, he's not an amazing crosser. He's not an amazing goal scorer. And if he's struggling with his dribbling right now, then maybe he's someone who can have a game on the bench to sort of just take that step back. We've got plenty of good forwards. Someone else can come into the team and offer us something a little bit different. That's something that I would not be against at all. This game screams Ahmad off the bench too. He will bring such energy and dynamism off the bench. Exactly, but got to remember, Palace played last night in Europe. Manchester United didn't, right? And you think United have a deeper squad than what Palace would. I think the last 20 minutes could be big at the weekend. It could be really big. And having someone like Ahmad off the bench, well, that could be dangerous. That could be lethal, bringing Ahmad last 20 minutes against a tiring defence. Ahmad to come on and dribble at people. Could be a really nice impact. The only concern would be sort of who you're bringing off at that point. You're bringing off a Sesko or a Cunha or an Mbumo. But it is definitely something to think about. Cunha on the left, I think, was good the other day. I think he was probably our most impressive forward, I thought, on the night. I think he did some really good stuff looking after the ball. In the first 30 minutes, he sort of just relieved the pressure a little bit. I might send some clips in Discord at some point. Cunha the other day, he just got us out. He just helped us look after the ball and sort of get out of that first wave of pressure. And I think that was really important. And Bumo, I don't know, he doesn't look comfortable when he plays up front. Now, when Bumo is one of these players, I spent all of last summer comparing him to Mo Salah. And I meant that as a massive praise, but also a slight criticism in a sense. The praise being strong as an ox, can hold off some of the most physical centre-backs and full-backs in the Premier League, and only needs a couple of touches. He doesn't need to dribble past someone, separate, bang, it's in the back of the net. Killer instinct, love it. But the criticism is actually, I don't know, he's not someone who the game flows through that well. And recently we've been looking for our forward to try and drop off of that front line. And I don't know, he just doesn't look comfortable doing it. He doesn't look entirely natural. He's a right winger at the end of the day. And at Brentford, he was always great as a right winger with a focal point as a striker. So is this a game where it'd be nice to move Mbeumo to the right-hand side? I mean, he's got 2 assists in his last 2 games when he's moved out here with Sesko through the middle. It's something to consider. And again, it's not a case of giving up on Ahmad. It's just maybe a game out. Or you could go Ahmad to the left-hand side. Something to consider. Do you think there is a structural issue with not having an overlapping left-back? Shaw seems to sit a lot and Cunha inverts. Dalot needs to get forward and overlapping more to help the right winger, whoever it is. Yeah, so I think we've seen it changing on a game-to-game basis, which is probably a good thing from Michael Carrick. The fact that from one game to the next he can change it. We've seen games where Shaw plays as the deepest on the left-hand side and Dalot gets released further forward. And then we've seen some other games where it sort of flips around and Shaw goes forward and Dalot plays a little bit deeper. The other night, it was more Dalot higher. Maguire went into the middle, Yoro sort of like a right centre-back, Shaw left centre-back. And I don't know if you noticed, particularly early in the game the other day, Cunha was holding the width a lot more. If we just actually return to the 11 from the other day. I can't find Ahmed. He's over there. In the early stages the other day, it lined up a little bit more like this, which is slightly different to what we normally see. It was Ahmad sort of tucked in a pocket rather than out wide. Dalot going forward more. And it was Cunha holding the width a bit more on the left. The problem is, I think, as the game goes on, you sort of see natural player habits come in. You know, first 30 minutes, your managers and your coaches' instructions are sort of fresh in your mind, and that's what you're trying to execute. I just felt as the game went on, Cunha was meant to be wide left, but just sort of started drifting a little bit more. And Shaw wasn't flying round, so it did leave us a little bit toothless down the left side. We know there's a serious profile that we're missing. We're missing a proper winger on the left or a flying fullback. We might need specialists in both of those positions in the summer. I'm not sure. But yeah, there is definitely a balance issue there. There's something that doesn't quite work. And to be honest, I don't know what the best solution is. I don't know how I would flip it. Because, you know, there is the argument of putting Cunha wider on the left and just hoping he holds that role. But he's not a winger. The other option is to bump everyone across one like that. And it swings round and Shaw goes forward. But again, is Shaw really the player you want there? Not sure. And also, thinking about this game more specifically, I think the threat of Munoz on the break and the speed at which he can cover ground is very different to Shaw. Very different to Shaw. This might be a game for Shaw to hold a little bit deeper, sort of ready for that transitioning threat of these two, because I think these two are very dangerous. These guys are energetic down the left as well, but Mitchell isn't the same attacking threat as what Munoz is. He'll probably score now, I've said that. But I wonder if this might be one where Shaw holds deeper and Dalot is the one sort of released that little bit higher, perhaps. AJ is soft launch and the Rashford return. I would not say that. I would get attacked, mate. Absolutely attacked. His crossing does need to improve. This is talking about Ahmad. But as I say, have the right matchup for Ahmad and he'll have more balance, helping him pass better. Yeah, I think there is still a slight imbalance in the United attack, which we sort of anticipated, didn't we? With the players that we signed. We knew we were getting quality, but maybe sacrificing a little bit of balance and synergy. And I think we've seen that in certain games this season, particularly those slower ones. Don't think we've seen as much winger or wide play under Carrick, which has affected Ahmad's form. I think that's a very valid point. I think that's very fair. Shaw will definitely sit more. Yeah, I think he will. I think he will, just thinking about that threat. It does leave Cunha holding wide left, which just isn't ideal. It does mean that Bruno probably shifts left a bit more, though. We know how dangerous he can be from there. Cunha put in a good defensive performance against Everton. He'll need to do the same. Yeah, I think Cunha was fantastic the other night. His final third work didn't quite work. It didn't quite come off. He wasn't on the wavelength with the forwards, which was a team problem, wasn't it? Everyone had that. But I think defensively he was really good, and I think the first sort of 2/3 of the pitch he did very well. Yeah, I'd be keeping Cunha in my team, especially as we don't have like a different left winger banging on the door, sort of demanding that spot. Yeah, I'm happy for Cunha to keep that position. Yeah, obviously no Dorgu is a problem for us as well. That doesn't help. Dean Henderson masterclass incoming, by the way. He saved the penalty last weekend, didn't he? If I don't see another Cunha surf at the Stretford end, I'm starting a riot. Understandable. So, would everyone have Cunha left then? Would everyone have Cunha on the left side? Or would anyone be tempted to push Mbeumo or Ahmad out there? Personally, I wouldn't do the Mbeumo push to a left wing, simply because I don't think it works against the more compact teams, the lower blocks. I think in quick games it can still be dangerous because of his shooting release. But I don't think it works so much against the deeper teams. So I wouldn't do Mbeumo out there. Is there any argument for Ahmad on the left or no? And if not, then the question is, where do you get Sesko in? Is it for Mbeumo, straight swap, or is it Mbeumo to the right? What do we think? Mbeumo on the right wing is a serious threat. I mean, yeah, I keep saying this. We signed him to be a right winger, didn't we? And we just haven't... we signed him knowing he's a right winger who likes to cut it in onto his left foot. But we've never really seen it. Under Amram, it was a right 10. And under Carrick, he's been a striker. Now, under Carrick, we've seen 2 games in a row where he's eventually moved to the right wing and got 2 assists and looked good from that position. He's just got that... Mbeumo's got that extra ability just to make something out of nothing. Not in the sense of like... He's not a player to do a Cunha against Arsenal and just smash in a worldie. But it's just... The way that he can put that ball into the box is so dangerous. And he can do it out of nothing. I think that's what makes him stand out. I feel like Ahmad a little bit more needs the flow of the game. He needs to be having a good game to do something good. Whereas Mbeumo, I feel like he could be dropping like an 85-minute absolute stinker. But in one moment, I think he's got that quality to get us a goal out of nothing. Whether that's with a cross or a pass or him scoring himself. I think he's got that bit more of a something. Of course, he's further into his career anyway. So are we thinking this, basically? Cunha is a maverick, will always produce a moment of magic. Also, he tracks back and helps his defenders. Yeah, when we signed him, there was sort of those stats going around that he walked more than anyone else in the Premier League last season. I don't mind Cunha defensively. I don't think he's as good as Ahmad. I think there's sort of levels to the game. But I think Cunha does a good job defensively. I think particularly under Carrick, he's been asked to do a real defensive job at times. And I think he's done that. I think he was really good the other day. I was impressed. I really enjoyed his performance. And yeah, in terms of being a shithouse, I said it the other day. I'm glad Cunha played for us for the last 15 minutes the other night. Because can you imagine Everton were 1-0 up, they had Cunha doing what Cunha does? Oh, it's so frustrating. He must be absolutely horrible to play against. Absolutely horrible. Amarim always said since the start, Mbeumo and Cunha are signings for multiple positions. Yeah, I mean, we've seen both of them play left. We've seen both of them play up front this season. Mbeumo's played on the right. I think Cunha's played through the middle. It's good to see. I'm not against Ahmad left, Cunha right. Sesko through the middle with Mbeumo rested. Yeah, I saw your comment a moment ago about being unsure of Mbeumo's fitness. I honestly just think Mbeumo's one of those players who doesn't need to play well to do well. I think he is just one of those. I don't think you will very often see sort of like, you get the compilations of a player's performance. I think you will rarely see an Mbeumo 90-minute compilation where he's destroying a team. I just don't think he's that player. He's so quiet in games, but he just pops up and does stuff. And that's why he is so much like Salah. Like if you were to watch a Salah compilation, you wouldn't see loads of mazy dribbling or beautiful passes, but you'd see 2 or 3 moments that just kill the opposition in the box. And I think that is Mbeumo. I think that's what he is. We are Man United again. Let them adjust to us. Yeah, and again, that's what I like, right? That we're having that conversation. We're not thinking about, okay, what wing back do we need to try and deal with Munoz? We're thinking, all right, how can we hurt them? How can we get after them? A lot of surgery still needed, very much so. Very, very much so. To be fair, I don't think there's as many players that need to be shipped out. I think we've got most of that work done. Obviously, naturally, you'll sell players each year. I do think it's more a case of needing a lot to come in still, though. And there's a few you let go. Of course there is. We know that will happen. But I think the squad's in a good place. I think the squad's in a good place. We need midfielders. That's so obvious. And we need some players down the left. You guys know that I personally sort of like the idea of a centre-back as well. But that one sort of divides opinion a little bit more. Anyway, should we have a look at Palace sort of in a high-pressing moment? Now, I will be doing a video on this as well to sort of maybe go a bit more in-depth and also show some examples of Palace in their defensive shape. Palace are a 3-4-3. That's how they defend. It's not a 3-4-3 that in a high press is suddenly a 4-4-2, or certainly not often it's not. So it is a 3-4-3, and I think we've all sort of sat and watched through what a 3-4-3 is like in the high press. There are moments where it can be really effective. If you can get your wing-backs connecting, you know, you can almost go man-to-man and really put United under pressure here. But I think we also know that the second those wing-backs get pinned a little bit, you can get outnumbered here. And I think that's something that I would be looking for United. Now, I've rewatched the Chelsea game against Palace the other week because that was the last time that Palace played a top six side. So I want to sort of see how they approached the game. And what Chelsea did was quite interesting. So it's Cucurella playing at left back, and they pushed him really high up the pitch. And weirdly, sort of played with a back three, but the most lopsided back three you'll see. It was really, really peculiar how they approached it. But they could almost get Palace to lock on like this. But then what they did was they started bringing Lomans in, sort of as that extra man. And that's sort of how they found space against the Palace front press, which I thought was quite clever, the way that Chelsea did that. I think the other thing that we saw in that game, Palace versus Chelsea, was players dropping from high, coming low, were a real problem. A real problem for Palace. They seem to struggle with that. I think the left centre-back is someone that you can sort of draw out of position. And again, I mean, how many times have we seen it before, right? You can pull a wing back out. If you can also then pull that centre back out, then there's room to exploit. We know that is the weakness. So I'm not expecting relentless high pressure from Crystal Palace. I'm not expecting a man-to-man approach for 90 minutes. I also don't think they'll park the bus. I'm expecting, or sort of predicting, sort of a high block and then eventually a low block is what I'm sort of anticipating. I think, again, with the amount of games that they've played, how tired this Palace squad will be, I'd be surprised if they go relentlessly for 90 minutes. I'd be surprised if they did that. I think they'll try and contain, but I don't think they'll drop to the box. I think it will be that sort of high 3-4-3. I think that's what we'll see. Sort of waiting for that moment to pounce. Which brings a question on the way that United build up and sort of try and progress the ball. Because what we've seen so far under Carrick is we go to a back three. One way or another, it might be Shaw drops in, it might be Dalot drops in. But we have seen United rotating to a back three on the ball. This does just raise the question, though, of does that make it too easy for Palace to sort of go to the man-to-man there? Does it make, have we made life too easy for Palace here? Do we need to find a way to disrupt this a bit more? I did a video the other day sort of looking at how good are United actually. And something that I mentioned was, I think we need to disrupt it more. I think we need to do a little bit more in these positions to disrupt the opposition's first line of pressure. I think when the fullback just stands there, it's quite easy for the right winger to pick up. I'd like to see more moments where one of the midfielders drops in there and perhaps, just as an example, in a moment, let's say you start like this, but then Shaw pulls wider and just Cobby drops in. It's those little questions that I think we can ask a little bit more in the first phase to just disrupt the way that Palace are playing. In terms of the way that Palace play, they're in the block, but it's a high block. They like to be quite aggressive. They like to jump out from that block, certainly in the games that I've seen. And I think Adam Wharton's a player that you've got to target. You've got to target Wharton. He's phenomenal. Such a good player. On the ball, I think he's amazing. Absolutely brilliant. His passing range is a joke. He's one of my favourite passers in world football right now. But defensively, I think he can be a bit of a liability, and I don't think he's helped by the system. The fact that they've only got 2 central midfielders. There was a moment in that game against Chelsea, and again, you'll see it in tomorrow's video, where I think it was one of the midfielders maybe dropped out a little bit deeper, and Wharton sort of followed. And Palace were left in this moment when they had one midfielder covering literally the entire width of the pitch. There was only one midfielder standing there. That's the sort of thing that I think United might be able to get at. That's the sort of thing where I think you can pull Palace out of position and then go and play in those spaces behind them. Because, again, we all saw it under Amorim. We liked to ask Luke Shaw to try and connect, for Yoro to try and connect, Lisandro Martinez. But it's so difficult to do. We've seen it. It's so difficult for centre-backs to regularly drop into these areas and follow a player. So I think naturally there will be moments of hesitance from Palace in here that I think United might be able to exploit. I think we might be able to find those pockets. If Palace do try and put pressure on the ball, they're quite good at it. They're a very energetic team. Physically, they're quite imposing again. But I think in the middle of the pitch, you can find that weakness. I think there are gaps in the centre there that you can exploit, that you can pull Wharton out, and you can go around him. His recovery runs aren't really good enough. So I think you can get around that. The other thing, if Palace were to play high, is long balls into the channel. Again, if we think about United's experience in a 3-4-3, but also Palace this season, moments where you can pull a wing back out and then attack that space in a channel can be so dangerous. Because again, these are centre-backs, they're not full-backs. They don't want to go and defend over here. They want to defend here. So I think that's something particularly with Mbeumo right wing that we might be able to look at. We've all seen Dalot do that sort of... He does that thing, doesn't he, Dalot, where he starts high, then he drops deeper, and as he receives the ball, he properly opens his body up and sort of springs it out on the right foot. I just booted my light. So he'll sort of drop deep and then open that body up to look forward. I think that's where United might have joy, as Mitchell, the wing-back, sort of tries to apply pressure. That's where I think we might have joy, sort of going in behind down that line. But I also think Dalot is one of our best players at coming back inside as well. So I think Dalot against Mitchell in possession might be one of the positions where United have the advantage. And I think someone asked, do I think this is an easier game than Everton? I do. I think it's a little bit easier. I think Everton are in a better place. I think they've got better momentum. I think Palace are struggling as a club at the moment. But just the way this works, this is if Palace try and apply that pressure. I think there's gaps in a lot of positions that I think we can exploit. Can you disrupt that first line with either Casemiro or Mainu dropping in? Yeah, and I don't think it's a case of them doing it for the full game, because then you get the same problem. If you literally just put Casemiro centre-back in possession like that, I don't think that fixes it. I think it's a case of doing it in moments. So in one moment we are like this, then in the next maybe Shaw goes a little bit wider and that's when Kobbie goes in. In the next maybe Yoro steps a little bit wider and Casemiro goes in there. That's what I would like to see, us doing both, asking more questions there. Because I think we've all seen, right, when we can get through that first bit and combine, we look really dangerous. Really, really dangerous. And we've seen some of the true quality of these United forwards. I think we've seen a better reflection of these players recently. You just got to find a way of opening that first bit to try and find them. But I think this is a team that you can do it against. Now, when it comes to the deeper stuff for Palace, it's a back five, isn't it? And that's difficult to break down because you've got wing-backs who will get out to try and close down crosses. You've got 3 centre-backs in the middle. It's going to be tough. For me, Sesko. Get Benji boy up there in the box, disrupting them. Get him up there, causing problems. Because again, right, what we've seen when United played the 3-4-3, and it is the same with Palace, I just use United as a reference point, was again, in and around the box, if you could sort of get one of these centre-backs just to bite, there's so much room behind. When the wing-back's sort of stretched, this centre-back wants to jump, you can get that room in behind. We've seen that time and time again. I'd have Sesko up there, sort of for that presence on the last line, sort of always on the shoulder. He's someone I would have. Absolutely. Dalot is surprisingly press resistant when he uses his brain. Yeah. Like I said, I think when Dalot isn't being daft, I think he's great. There's so many things he's good at. You know, final third, not so much. But I think the first 2/3, there is a lot that Dalot is really good at. Really good at. And Mbeumo in swingers will be elite too. Yes, that is the next point that I wanted to come on to. A back five in the 5-2-3 sort of works in two ways. You can either have it like this, which Palace sometimes do. They keep a real narrow front three. And what they want to do is try and stop you playing into your Kobbie Mainoo, into your Casemiro. Where's the obvious space, right? Like, you might as well put a big warning sign on it. Big space. You can go round a 3-4-3. If these forwards for Palace are high, you can go round that 3-4-3. These are the positions where I think we can cause serious problems in terms of progression. Or the other option is they might drop in like this, sort of into a 5-4-1. I think when Palace do this right, there is so much room for that early cross from here. Think back to Dalot versus somebody. Was it Fulham? The Bruno sort of shin goal. Was it Fulham? Was it Spurs? I don't know. There was a game where Dalot crossed from the right hand side. It went towards Bruno at the back post. I think that's the sort of region where we can hurt Palace with that ball. Sort of the deeper positioned cross. These positions here. And, Shaw sort of suits that if he's sort of allowed to go occasionally. Bruno, the second he drops out there. But also, as you've mentioned, Mbeumo. A moment where Dalot goes on the overlap. Mbeumo comes in onto his left. Can we see that cross towards Benjamin Sesko or towards Cunha coming in at the back post? Is that something we look for? I think we can. We need to spam purposeful crosses. If Palace sit deep, an early goal from United will be crucial on how the game goes. Yeah, this is the sort of game where if you can score early, it completely changes the landscape of everything. It affects the mentality, I think, of the other team. I do have one hipster shout. If we wanted Shaw back at left centre-back, Heaven might be able to do a job at left full-back. I think Heaven could be one of those players who does that full-back role where you tuck in as a centre-back. I don't see him sort of like a flying left-back, overlapping, spamming crosses. But sort of like the Ben White full-back role we saw at Arsenal a few years ago. Or Vardy when he's been at left-back for Manchester City. Sort of that left-back that maybe just tucks and holds here. Yeah, I think Heaven can do that. I think he can. If Palace drop into this 5-4-1 shape, would it make sense to rotate Bruno and Casemiro? Get Bruno on the ball for the crosses and Casemiro in the box? Yeah. I think this is a game for Bruno. I really do. Now, I don't think Bruno played very well the other day. But I think this is one for him to bounce back with a quick performance. I haven't got the numbers today. It will be in tomorrow's video. There's a rating system on XG Stat where you can see where teams suffer the most from, where they concede the most percentage of XG, or however it's worked. And for Palace, it's there. It's from attacking midfielders, as it's worded. Again, we've all seen it in a 5-4-1, right? There is that gap behind two central midfielders, especially if you pin a centre-back, especially if you do that. I think that's something to look for. Absolutely. Also, something else that we know is quite effective. We've seen it. We saw it for Arsenal last week with Eze and Gyökeres against Spurs. And we also saw it for Newcastle against United last season. I think if you can sort of blindside diagonals, I think if you can get these diagonal passes coming in there, I think this sort of player here, just in almost like a blocking role a little bit, I think can disrupt wide centre-backs. And again, I think that's when you might actually have some joy in the final third, sort of popping around like that. So I think that's something to look out for as well. Now, I don't want to say too much more, because if not, I'm going to ruin tomorrow's video, and we are low on content as it is. But yeah, something to look at. Kukongi, yeah, great player in the academy. Really liked his development as a left-back. Again, he looks like another player who might go on to be that left-back that holds, but then can be released as well in moments. Sort of in this Shaw role, as you're mentioning. Yeah, I think he can do that. The only way we can exploit Palace's fast attack and through cut balls to the likes of Ahmad and Mbeumo and Cunha. I think my voice went a little bit there. Yeah, I think United can carry a transition threat in this game. If you think wing-backs, so much ground to cover, I think United can exploit that. I do think we'll see a lot of this game, though, where Palace are that much deeper and trying to contain it. I think they'll sort of go from that high block into the low block is what I'm expecting. Now, I might be wrong. There's a reason I'm sitting here doing it. I'm not managing Palace or United this weekend. But I think that's how Palace will play. I think that's how they'll approach it. AJ, thoughts on Heaven as a DM, given his background as a midfielder before becoming a centre-back? He is very efficient in passing and breaking the lines, maybe coming off the bench for Casemiro. Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen it a bit more, to be honest. Even under Ruben Amorim, I'm surprised we haven't seen it at some point. I'm quite liking his centre-back development. I'm quite liking it. I'm quite liking it. So I would be hesitant to move him. Loki says hi. Yeah, I think I'd be hesitant to move Heaven. But I also bet he can do a job. I bet he can do a job there because technically he is really nice on the ball. This is what happens when you get fence panels delivered. Loki just goes mental. But also, he's like the most scared wuss of a dog you'll ever see. Like, intruders are coming, he runs upstairs to bark, like away from the front door because he's scared of them. So he's not very intimidating. I do apologise. I don't know if anyone else is home to ask him to shush. Look at that. Oh, no, he's back. I thought it had worked. I do apologise. I'm not going to stop him. I'm going to leave him doing his thing in case these fence panel people have come to kill me. I've already given you a video idea. Which one was that? Was that just like why Carrick is the best of all time or something? Was it something like that? I think it was. Anyway, should we get to predictions? Because like I said, I don't want to do too much more on this because I'm going to ruin the whole purpose of tomorrow's video. So shall we get to score predictions? As we mentioned earlier, big weekend. Big weekend again. He's not going to stop. Arsenal at home to Chelsea. So Chelsea could quite easily drop points there. Maybe big. I think Villa away at Wolves is an interesting one simply because it's that rivalry. So that's something that we can look at. You know, could they drop points there? Potentially. And look at the league table. Look at the league table. Ali, do you know when you were last in a stream? I was trying to think what the league table might have looked like point-wise, where we might have been. I wonder where we would have been. Loki has views on the front three, right? He does indeed. They're quite controversial ones, though, so I can't even repeat them. Crazy. AJ, have you studied Palace's style of play and what game plan do you expect from them on Sunday? Yeah, we'll see a bit more of that in tomorrow's video. I have been watching Palace. I like Palace as a club. I think they've been well run for a lot of years. I don't think they've got it so right in the past 12 to 18 months. I think they've stalled a little bit. They've plateaued. Yeah, I quite like Palace. And yeah, I'm knowledgeable on sort of how Palace will play, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I've got an idea of, I think, what we can exploit in that Palace team. Some of it mentioned today. Anyway, score predictions and goal scorers, please. And thank you, my people. I'm going for 2-1 United. Sesko and Cunha. Yes, please. I will take that. Sesko goal. Love it. Nothing hits like a striker goal at Old Trafford. 3-1 United. 2-1 United. And Mbumo and Sesko. 2-0 United. 2-0 Sesko and Bruno. What am I thinking? Am I being greedy if I ask for a clean sheet? Is that greedy? Is that greedy to ask for a clean sheet? Because I quite like one. How many goals have Palace scored this season? 29. So what, they averaged just over a goal a game. We got 48. We've nearly scored 20 goals more than Palace. That's insane. That's insane. Conceded a similar amount, though. I guess that's been the problem all season, right? I'm going to go Manchester United 2, Crystal Palace 0. That's my prediction. My goal scorers are going to be Kobe Mainu, left side of box, and Sesko Airlines. I think we United fans are just struggling with PTSD of not keeping clean sheets. Yeah, we're just not used to it at all. Not used to it. But a 2-0 win is what I'd like. I'd like sort of that routine win would be quite nice. I love the last minute goals. The West Ham equaliser was great. The late winner against Fulham was magical. The drama of the Arsenal game was fantastic. But I would quite like just a sort of routine 2-0 we score one in the 30th minute, we score one in the 65th minute, and we play decent. We don't necessarily like have to light up the pitch, but we play pretty decent. We look solid defensively, no real hiccups, and we offer a threat. That's sort of what I would like. Just something drama free. Just go get a result, be the better team, and get the get the result that you deserve. That's what I'd like to see from United this week. See you later, Alex, mate. Have a good one, my friend. Enjoy your meetings. Corby is such a rogue shout. Yeah, he's literally got zero goals this season, but I just feel like he might pop up with one. He's literally got 0. 2 assists, though. Yeah, I've got a rogue feeling he might pop up with one. Just in behind there, you know. Just in that little hole somewhere around there. I think he might pop up. Well, what I care for is the 3 points, even if it was an ugly own goal. We need Champions League so bad. We do. We do need Champions League so bad. So bad. I'm fed up of not watching football. I want to watch Manchester United play football. Because it looks more like football these days. So I want to watch more of it. I'd take a 5-3. We score 2 after the 90. You see, I sit here and say I don't want drama. If you offered me that, yeah. I mean, especially if Lomans is bagging alongside Bruno in 90th minute, I would take that. I would take that. The adrenaline of Lomans popping up late for a winner would be insane. Would be insane. Yeah, I'm going to go for a routine 2-0 win. And I think I might keep my eye quite closely. Not on that, because that's just 2 badges. On that Wolves-Villa game tonight. I don't know. I would just love... What a great start to the weekend that would be if Villa dropped points. That would just be an amazing start to the weekend. I think Sesko won't score this time, but we'll win. We'll take that, and I'm sure Sesko would as well. I do need Cobby to work on his edge-of-the-box shots. They're a little underwhelming for a player I love so much. Yeah, I would like to see that sort of injection of goal output from him. In his debut season, he scored several, didn't he? Some beautiful, beautiful gols. Yeah, I'd like to see a return to that. And I think we will this weekend. That's my prediction. That's my rogue shout for this weekend. Cobby pops up. I think it's just outside the box. Sort of on the corner where the D meets the edge of the box. Just there. Curls one in, low bottom corner. Cobby Mainey. Beautiful. That's what I'm going for. Anyway, I think that is everything that I wanted to discuss for today's stream. Now, in terms of future content, the plan was to do a video today. But I think I'm going to put more time into the Palace preview and do a video tomorrow. So rather than doing volume of videos, I might just do the one and try and get it a better video. I think that might be my plan. Because views are low at the moment anyway, so I'd rather push the quality rather than trying to get more videos out. I think that's my plan. Then Sunday, United play at 2 p.m, which is quite nice. It's one where we don't play at 8 o'clock at night. So that will be a same-day match video, which I'm looking forward to. Hopefully we're talking about a lovely United 2-0 win. And then next week, let me get ahead for once. Next week's stream is going to be... Well, that makes no sense how I've done this. We play on the Wednesday next week, don't we? So we'll stream next Wednesday. Looking ahead to the Newcastle game. And then we'll stream next Friday. Not really sure what we'll be discussing, but there'll be something. But there's a bit of a gap for the FA Cup, I think. So, yes, that is all I wanted to discuss for today. I'm off to watch some more of Crystal Palace. I hope you all have an amazing afternoon and a great weekend as well. Have a good time, but stay safe while doing it. I think that is everything. Yeah, so we're going to wrap up. Thank you guys very much for watching this one. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you for the super chats, the gifted memberships, the renewal of memberships, and just a good vibe in the chat. It's been a good one this morning. Thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, notifications on, joined the Discord, all of that stuff. Pushing towards 100,000 subscribers, and I'm trying to line something up. I'm just waiting for someone to get back to me, but I'm trying to push something for 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, let's just keep going, and hopefully United keep winning as well to go with the positive momentum. So yeah, that's everything. Thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. You're right, Steve. The FA Cup does not exist this season. What's an FA Cup? What's a Champions League? Never heard of it. I will see you all very, very